This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates.
Good morning, video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games, hosted by three very kind and knowledgeable boys. Sitting next to me on the couch,
I'm in the country of Australia, and it's me, the mayor, Adam Knox.
Oh, I'm also in the country, and my name's Tommy Dasilo. I forgot to say that.
Yeah, you're the vice mayor.
I
just promoted you from town idiot.
I got so excited to talk about this strange recording situation that we have going on that I forgot to say my own name on this podcast. And joining us from across the pond, foreign correspondent Ben Vanel.
Good morning, Hong Kong and
Nice.
video games.
Now,
So what's Paris like?
this is another one of these ones where the hope is that it will sound seamless to the listener, but we have no idea how it's going to work out.
We're probably getting the worst experience of this.
Yeah.
Because you've got headphones on with Ben in another country in one ear.
Yeah.
Then you've got me coming through the headphones a
Yes.
little bit
Yeah.
in your other ear.
Yeah.
And then in the third ear, or the second, in the third thing in your two ears.
My butthole, yeah. That's where I've put the microphone, yeah.
There's the headphone with our mics. So
I'm talking out of my ass like Ace Ventura.
The mayor of Australia's here.
And in a stunning display of planning, I've got the earphone that I've got you coming through on Adam. You're sitting on the other side of that. So you're talking into the ear that has Ben coming into it. I think this is what mental illness feels like. This is so overwhelming.
This is when the Beatles went stereo. This is like Revolution 9, where they just did everything they could with it.
This is like I can hear lots of voices, but they're not telling me to do destructive things. They're just telling me like boring stories about when they worked at Target when they were 16.
This is like when Bob Dylan went electric, when people rioted. It's going to be that kind of effect.
when Filthy Casuals went Skype.
So what's Hong Kong like? I can see your apartment in the background of this Skype call. First thing I've noticed, the light switches are huge.
Yeah, the light switches are huge. Check out this pillow. It's got hearts on it.
Oh, you bought your pillow from home. That's nice.
Yes. Hong Kong is mental. Like, it's fully crazy. Like, it's Tommy and I have spent time in Tokyo, and it's kind of like Tokyo if there were no rules or regulations. Like, there's just like something like 20 million people, and they all just kind of do their own thing. And yeah, it's really overwhelming, but very, very interesting. And like, yeah, lots of technology, lots of big neon signs. It is very Blade Runner-ish.
Is it one of those cities where the traffic lights may as well not exist?
The traffic lights are kind of the only things that people obey, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
So what are these other rules that you're seeing people breaking constantly? I don't understand are there murders in the street? What
So many murders. I've seen 7 murders. It's just a lot of like the buildings all look like they're about to fall down, except for the ones that look like the fanciest buildings in the world. It's kind of this really weird dichotomy of like really low socioeconomic stuff, and then like watch shops and jewelry stores on the other side of the road. It's very strange, but yeah, it's cool.
I went
a lot of
to,
street markets. Like street markets are the kind of thing that are like, okay, everyone's selling cheap shit, and there's like water. There's like a lot of water on the ground. I don't know why that's.
Has it been raining? I think I can figure this one out.
Have you looked for any like electronics, like video game stuff at all?
I have. I went to a place called the Wan Chai Computer Center, and it's like
shout out.
a few floors of just like. But again, they're not like shops. They're more like stalls. Like they're kind of like a guy kind of sitting at a table with a bunch of a bunch of stuff hanging up.
Oh shit. So you have no way of knowing this, but our Skype went crazy. So it looked like you were just really trying hard to think of the word stall. Ironically, you stalled on the word stalls.
But that was cool. Everything's pretty crazy, basically. Not as much video games though. More like tech stuff, like mouses and like external hard drives and a lot of computery stuff. Not so much console stuff, which is weird.
I went looking for video games in Shanghai where I just was, and I think they've cracked down on all the fake stuff. Like, it doesn't exist anymore. I went to a market and I was just like, I wonder what Switch games are worth. $150 for a Switch game. Yeah.
That's almost $10 more than they cost here.
Yeah!
Nintendo sucks.
So, Knox, while we've been away, you did a stand-up gig at Pax over the weekend.
Yep, and I had a little look around the. Thanks to people who came to that as well. There were some people who listen to this who were there. But so I had a little walk around the Pax show floor, and it was actually really fun. I played more stuff than I have there in previous years.
Because I was just thinking this. It's always a bit weird where it's kind of timed when a lot of the big stuff that you would think would be fun to play at a thing like that has just come out or is like a week away from coming out.
Totally.
In this case, the very day of the 3 big releases of the year all came out at once.
And they had a big Mario set up there. There was a little bit of Assassin's Creed, but it was mainly stuff that's coming out like early next year.
Right.
So I played 3 games. I played Monster Hunter World, Dragon Ball Fighters.
Yes, which looks amazing.
I'll let you know what I thought in just a moment.
Was
And I
it
also played
weird
Far
to
Cry
be
5.
there and not be able to play South Park: The Fractured Butthole for the 4th year in a row?
I actually had been playing that before I went there.
Great,
So it
great.
kind of felt like home
Yeah,
still.
just weaning yourself off it. Next year, you'll be ready to attend a PAX where there's no South Park at all.
There was no Star Wars Battlefront. I expected there to be a big thing of that.
Yep.
But there was like this Star Wars AR thing. So Star Wars have made their own like independently released virtual reality headset thing.
Right.
And you can only play several Star Wars games on it. And it's a lot cheaper. Like, it's more of a toy kind of a thing. I didn't try it because it looked fucking terrible, honestly.
Yeah. So not like proper games, like just games made for the AR headset?
Yeah, like you get those weird, or you used to get those weird consoles that just had like the strange knockoff games on it.
Yeah.
It's like one of those, but for Star Wars VR games. And
Right.
But it's not VR; it's the AR thing where you have like a shaded visor in front of you, and then they haven't made it look like that helmet from the first Star Wars.
The blast
Star
shield
Wars.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, it should have looked like that, but it's like these very poorly coloured. Darth Mauls and whatever that you're fighting in this kind of weird grayscale almost.
Right. Like a Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. It looks very Star Warsy, and it's like you can play the 3D chess. And all
Oh,
that
right.
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. All right. That's cool.
Yeah. What did you see there that had what had the biggest line?
God of War had a relatively big one at the start, which then went away as people realised they were just showing a trailer in there. I believe.
What?
Oh, brutal.
I'm
the
pretty
Stones.
Sure. Yeah, and I nearly lined up for that. Far Cry 5, but Monster Hunter had a pretty big one too.
Oh, wow.
I was in that line for like an hour and 10 minutes or something.
Wow.
Jeez.
For ages, because I was there with my brother and he really wanted to see this. I was like, I'll line up too, not realising the time commitment I was about to make. But the 15 minutes I played of it, pretty fun.
Okay. Wow.
It feels. I mean, I didn't get to play a huge amount of it. I killed one sort of lizard monster, and then just had to wander around the place.
Yeah.
And it looks nice.
And what about in the game Monster Hunter World?
There we go.
Oh shit! That Skype delay hasn't hurt your timing even slightly.
Oh, yes.
yeah, I
feel
think
like-
Skype glitched. It sounded like you just said something really fucked and unfunny. Is there? Can we fix this connection at all?
I feel like as well, I should point out, I feel like we are just shouting because the computer's over the other side of the room and we're having to talk to Ben who's in Hong Kong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like when my mum's on the phone, whenever my mum is on the phone, she fucking screams and yells because the person's far away.
Yeah,
Exactly,
We look like
yeah.
a couple of baby boomers contacting like our 20-year-old kid who's overseas for the first time. We've downloaded Skype just for this.
A couple of ham radio enthusiasts.
How's Italy?
You guys are coming through very loud and clear.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we'll tone it down a little bit. So yeah, Monster Hunter World feels all right. It's that very Japanese type of movement, if that makes sense. Like very deliberate and very video game feeling.
Yep.
But it looks nice. I mean, I was sat right up in front of this fucking huge TV on a little stool, like literally about maybe 12 inches from the screen. So that was a really not ideal way to start playing that game.
Yeah.
Also, just before we were going to go on, like it was 15-minute things, and then they make everyone leave, about 12 people at a time. And one guy just didn't move when they told everyone to leave. He was like, no, I'm nearly finished. And they were like, okay, well, your time's up. He's like, wait. They were like, he's figured it out.
Yeah.
There's nothing we could do.
I can understand that from the point of view of like, PAX if you're just a general punter, it's not a cheap thing to go to. So to get in and get to play this game and be told, no, you have to leave right now. I totally understand going, no, but I paid like $200 to be here and play this fucking game.
Yeah.
I just want to kill a fucking...
The counterpoint to that is so did everyone else.
Sure, yeah.
But now you're thinking like a human being.
Yes, not a gamer.
I was thinking like a monster hunter.
What else? Far Cry 5.
Far Cry 5. Boy, that feels like Far Cry. Like, it was fun. I played about 15 minutes of that as well. Drove a little truck around, had a little bit of a shoot. And it feels exactly like Far Cry, which is a good thing for me.
So
it looks really nice.
Great.
Driving a truck around and having a little shoot, was that in a town? Who were you fighting? Like, what's the kind of...
and what about when you started playing the game?
Oh, for fuck's sake, Tommy.
This is a very good joke you guys have figured out how to do. I'm really enjoying it. So anyway, yeah, I was killing like the church people, whatever they are. There was no real context for what I was doing. It was just they put you somewhere where there were a few buildings which look nice and look different to the last couple of games as well, which is good. Like
cool.
The setting feels very sort of having more buildings around. Honestly, is the difference. But it does, that is kind of cool. I saw somebody else shooting a bear.
Fuck.
And then I fucking played some Far Cry, you sons of bitches.
That's really not on, man. That's not on.
When you said you killed some church people, I really regretted jumping the gun on doing mine. I was like, this one's heaps better. Why did I waste mine on you driving around a truck?
The truck felt good too. It was a big truck. But yeah, it really felt like Far Cry.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Having never played a Far Cry, it sounds
A
like
proper one, because you played
Yeah.
Summer Primal. But that
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they had a little fishing setup as well, which I didn't try. But there were a couple of little fishing chairs and just letting people try the fishing game of Far Cry, which is
cool.
a cool idea.
Yeah, cool.
And then I played Dragon Ball, which is fucking really fun.
Oh, nice.
I had a great time. I was playing just on an Xbox controller. They had setups with like sticks as well. It was pretty simple to do. Like there are two main buttons where it's like a light and a heavy attack, and it will automatically combo stuff if you just start hitting them. It doesn't really care about having specific button inputs of like, quarter circle forward and then punch, kick, punch. Or
right.
It just goes like, hit these two if you want to continue. So it's making it more about positioning and timing and stuff, which is cool because that's a lot easier to immediately wrap your head around.
Yep.
Then there's like specials, and you switch and you pick 3 people at a time, and once you've defeated all 3 of the other person, you win.
And that cool kind of line art
fuck,
style,
it looks cool.
Does that look good in practice?
It looks a little bit more kind of like their 3D models than the trailers have, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
I get that cell shading kind of.
Yeah, right.
Look. Yeah.
They don't look quite as flat, but it looks really, really good in motion, and it runs really smoothly, and it made me very much looking forward to that game. I don't think they've really said much about the single-player part of that, but I would really like to have some dumbass Dragon Ball story to go through.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really sick.
But at the very least, the multiplayer part of it seems like it will be cool.
Paris Games Show happened over the weekend?
Paris Games Week. They do it for a whole week in Paris, but they take 3 hours for lunch. That is a good joke about the French.
Spending a week in Paris. Oh, I haven't done that since I fucked Paris Hilton for a week.
Oh, no, I didn't see that one coming. Good on you. Fucking Jay Leno from 2004. I don't think you ever
I loved when Jay Leno on The Tonight Show would get up in the monologue and talk about how he fucked Paris Hilton.
I picked the wrong one. Will Anderson on The Glass House.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
Okay. There were a few trailers, like Sony put on a big press conference thing because they've got that PlayStation experience thing next week or the week after or something.
Yeah.
Which apparently the talk is there won't really be anything there because they kind of showed it all.
Did it at this,
Yeah, right.
They announced...
That's weird. Nintendo used to have their own thing that they don't do anymore.
They have
Space World.
Yeah, but they have like 10 video things a year.
Sure.
So and they're building a theme park.
Cut them some fucking slack.
So there was some trailers of stuff that we already know about. It was mostly stuff we know about already. There were a couple of announcements of like smaller things, like a sequel to Spelunky. Have either of you played Spelunky?
No. I know people are just like obsessed with it. I know that like the people who like it think it's the best game. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll go in on this second one.
And a couple of smaller things for like VR and stuff that looked really cool. But the bigger trailers were Detroit Beyond Human had one that was very weird in that it was sort of the same thing as those other trailers where it's like, but this is what could have happened.
Right.
Here's the choices you might have made. But the setup for this one was you controlling an android woman who is like a servant for a house of this kind of very anger problem-y, domestic abuse-y father and this young girl. And it was like this weirdly sort of like, it would like go for making a, fucking crazy situation in your game, talk about big issues and stuff, but it didn't feel like it was hitting the tone quite rightly to me.
Which is exactly how the other trailer that I have seen felt. Like it just felt like they were going like, yeah, oppression, minorities. We don't really know how to deal with this. We're a video games company.
Yeah.
And it's not even about being a video games company. It's like, they should make movies about that, but maybe Michael Bay shouldn't direct them.
Yeah, totally.
And this David Cage guy from... have you guys ever played Heavy Rain or...
No.
I've played Heavy Rain, yeah.
Yeah. It kind of doesn't really know how to tell a story. So, I don't know. It seemed fine. It was just that thing of like, that lame trope of... this girl's being abused by the father, and we're not really exploring that. It's just a motivation for your character to then go like,
okay.
I want to be the hero.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, and then the other one was God of War. There was one for God of War, which just was a little bit more gameplay and still looks fine. The kid was a little too sassy for my liking. You know what I mean? He had a couple of like Anakin Skywalker fucking quips of like, see you later. And
your complaints of these two trailers back to back is just wonderful. They're not properly addressing this social issue and kind of bungling it. This kid gave me the shit.
This Kevin McAllister motherfucker.
that would be better. He did kind of point out traps to you. He was a little Kevin McAllister.
Ah, nice.
And he put on some aftershave, and it really looked like it burned him.
Kevin McAllister, he's the real God of War, isn't he?
He's like a god of mischief.
Yeah, he's
more
Loki.
Like a Loki kind of a
Yeah.
And then the longest one and the one that I was most sort of excited to see was Last of Us 2. Have either of you watched that trailer yet?
I actually haven't yet. This happened for listeners, I just got back from overseas,
you've
and
been
this
on
kind of all
planes
went
for-
up like just as I was leaving. So I
Yeah,
haven't had a chance yet to.
I watched it last night. Fucking hell.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, because you watched it first, Knox, and you were like, "Oh, it's kind of intense. There's some, violence and stuff." And it was worse than I thought. It's really, I think over the top. Like I thought I didn't really like it. I didn't like the tone. I thought it was too far.
It's so free of context that I think that maybe is the problem, that you have it shows like 4 or 5 characters who aren't from the first game. They're just completely no one. It's in the middle of this situation that isn't explained. And so all of it seems gratuitous. It all just seemed like that. So they beat this woman's arms in with a hammer, clip her wings. Then she hammers the woman who was clipping her wings in the head with another hammer, with the same hammer. There aren't a bunch of hammers. It's in a hammer factory, and it survived the fall. And then there's this other
it's
woman
not the bloody.
time
It's not the
being-
bloody Hammer Brothers. It's not the Hammer Brothers.
They are wearing.
Did that come through, guys? Did that come through? Okay.
That's going to sound ridiculous because this will sound just fine to anybody. It'll just be
I know.
yelling to people listening in the same room. Did that come through?
Yeah, does it sound all right?
It's a weird. It's very Last of Us-y in that it's just like this brutal thing, but it does seem when you don't have any context for it, just a little like.
Right. Yeah, I got to watch
A
it.
little hostel, like a little torture porn kind of.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
It was very, very graphic, and yeah.
Speaking of which, so the Saw franchise is back.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a new one coming out.
Right.
And I saw the
Jigsaw.
trailer. Yeah, and
Oh,
okay.
right. Okay.
So it's called Jigsaw,
Yeah.
as in the name of the villain.
Yep.
And I only just realised that that's why the other ones were called Saw.
Oh,
is because
Tommy.
his name is Jigsaw.
Okay. Well,
I thought it was like. I thought it was like a play. It's like you guys saw this happen, and also there's lots of saws being used.
have you ever noticed in Die Hard how they're having
Die Howard.
Die Howard? It's a German film about a man named Howard, the
Yeah.
Howard. In Die Hard, they find John McClane quite difficult to kill.
Mm-hmm.
If I hadn't have bungled the word hard,
Yeah, this would have been a much better point. So it's a victory to me by default. I've still
just,
Bradbury'd my way into this one.
I didn't see Jigsaw, but I saw the other one from the franchise that just came out, Saw Ragnarok. It's really good.
oh, they sound similar. There's something in that, I reckon.
Not a stand-up bit though. Certainly not.
No, definitely
not that.
not. Not one that like you don't even have an ending for.
No.
And the ending is trying to pretend like not having an ending.
Certainly not a bit that you just did in 2 overseas countries to a largely baffled response from the some of which non-English speaking audience. Do you guys have lisps over here? All right.
But why do you bring up the Saw?
Just because he said torture porn and hostel and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Saw's
But
back.
I couldn't believe that I had never put that together. And I swear to God, like when it said Jigsaw, I feel like I felt the energy of about at least 6 other people in the cinema go, oh, that's why they were called Saw.
Definitely not.
There's a big cinema though.
Unless it was 6 people who this was the first movie they'd gone to see, and somehow they knew about Saw.
It was one of those seniors sessions.
There's no chance.
There are a lot of old people in there.
Oh, the Mario Brothers.
Right.
But with The Last of Us, it was never like
Yeah.
the violence and the grim tone of it that was the point. It was the characters were really well written.
That seems weird, and I say this having not seen the trailer yet, but it seems weird that they've focused on that as the core aspect of the trailer. When, yeah, they must know that's not what people liked about the first. That just seems
Yeah.
like a complete sort of, misunderstanding of what people enjoy about it. Or is it deliberate of like, there's so many big games coming out, there's so many exciting trailers, it's like, this will just stick out, for better or worse. This will get people talking.
Possibly, and like in a broader, like it did make me interested to see what's going on in the world. Like it seems like this kind of cult has formed, that like some kind of it seems like there's interesting stuff going on in it, but yeah, it was an odd trailer to show.
That's
It's still no kind of date on it or anything?
No what?
No date?
No, yeah.
It kind of makes me concerned that it's going to fall into the trap of like, well, to make a sequel to this game, it has to be better, but hey, maybe we can't make it better than the perfect game, so let's just make it more violent, more extreme.
Yeah.
That's kind of what this made me feel or worry about.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a common pitfall, but at least they're having a go, and it's like if that happens, you've still got that perfect game.
Yeah,
That
totally.
original perfect game, like yeah,
And-
yeah, it's
yeah.
it's a hard trap, like being the victim of their own success a little bit.
And you're right, like, hey, let's maybe trust the team that made that first one to make another good one. They clearly were good enough to do that, but
This is just a poor choice of thing to show, I think, because if this shows up 15 hours into the game or whatever, or 10 hours into the game,
And you know who these people are.
who these people are, and you know what's at stake here, it could be really cool.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, then it's annoying that they've showed. I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, should we move on to the big release of the last week? One of the big releases.
It's probably the big. Well, I played Assassin's Creed as well.
Okay.
Do you want to get that out of the way first before the meat?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we're going to focus
Which
on.
it says a lot about what I thought of it when I'm saying we're getting it out
Okay,
of the
sure.
way.
Well, we should say we next week we will have had more time to play Assassin's Creed and Wolfenstein 2. So
And,
next week is when we'll be focusing on those two. Oh,
Well,
and Call of Duty.
and Wolfenstein I'll be playing next week to have a bit of a Nazi special.
Right, but yes, but you spent a bit of time with Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
this
I
week.
played because I've made some time to go through a bit of that. It seems all right. It is definitely not a change, the change they were saying for the Assassin's Creed series. It is real Assassin's Creed-y. Little bits and pieces of it are different in that, like, you upgrade skills and craft weapons and that sort of stuff. But it's all very just thinly put over the top of what is fundamentally still the same sort of game.
Right.
Well, I will say last week we were trying to, we were saying these big 3 games coming out on the same day. They were all embargoed until the day of release, and is one of them going to be a stinker? And just based on the Metacritic standings alone, it doesn't seem like that has really happened. It seems like Odyssey has got glowing reviews all over the place, but I think Assassin's Creed and Wolfenstein are both high 80s on Metacritic. I think they're both faring pretty well.
But Assassin's Creed seems totally fine. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. And like the version of Egypt that it has is really good.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, cool.
The environment is fantastic, and that's been my favorite thing about it so far, is just being in this really cool, very different place
Yeah.
for a video game. Doing some similar video gamey things of going to this checkpoint and assassinating this person, and going to this checkpoint and hunting for leather to build stuff and that sort of thing. I'm always out there hunting for leather.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't need to play a video game about it as well.
So has this Assassin's Creed game started to incorporate some of the stuff from Far Cry, where it's like, if you gather enough of this, you can upgrade this, and there's like a tree of upgrades as well as skills?
Yeah, but they seem a little ineffectual, a lot of them. Like,
Right.
right from the start, it's already, you're capable of doing whatever you kind of want to.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right.
A little bit, which, it's not that big of a deal, but it seems like it's going to be the sort of thing. I'm only a few hours in. The sort of thing where you're constantly getting the sort of gear you need at any point. So you're never really, which maybe is a good thing. And apparently it opens up a little bit more than I've seen. And gets more interesting. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just it's not a revitalization in the way. It's a little buggy to, the camel that you ride will crash into a bunch of walls if you let him just do his own thing. Which I've never
Sounds
ridden
cool.
a camel. Maybe that's what camels do. Maybe camels are capable of sticking their necks through walls. I
Maybe.
don't know.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that the story is incredibly flat so far.
Right.
Just very dry, very uninteresting characters at this point, where they're just sort of those bland kind of, well, my son is dead and the Pharaoh did it, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go out there, kill the Pharaoh.
Right.
And it just seems, because that was always the thing about 2 that I think was part of why people liked it so much, is that Ezio was a very boisterous, interesting character.
Yeah, and then also mixed in with the Pope is in control of the secret alien world and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
there was
exactly
a lot of weird shit that was kind of interesting as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and the weird stuff in this seems a little just rote, a little bit the same as ever, and just it does still feel like it's treading through the motions of being an Assassin's Creed game for the most
Right.
part.
Is
But
there
it's nice.
is there a framing device like the other ones?
I haven't seen any future stuff yet. It's
Okay.
not all the same future kind of graphics, but I haven't seen anything of I guess you're playing a video game in the future now.
Yeah.
They just kind of gone fuck, we get it. You just want Egypt.
Yeah,
Like,
cool. There
might be something shows up later on.
Yeah, and I guess what I've found in replaying a few of those, even those great ones from the second and the Brotherhood and the Revelations ones and number 4, the starts of those games are kind of shitty. Like, the first few hours tend to be here's some very slowly paced introductory stuff, and then it kind of gets fun. So, but
Yeah, I'm definitely going to play some more, and I'm interested to talk about it again after you've had a chance to play it as well.
yeah, cool. Yeah.
Because I think part of it as well is that the movement is so slow in comparison to the other game that I was playing a lot of, that it just felt like a real shifting of gears.
Yeah, I'll bet.
That other game was Spyro the Dragon.
God. Yeah, so Super Mario Odyssey, it came out on Friday. We've all been playing it. We've all put a significant amount of time into it. I think we've all seen the credits.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that now, obviously, in a fair bit of depth. And I guess we should say that we are going to try and keep this relatively spoiler-free for the sake of big set pieces and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But that being said, we've all reached a certain point and we do want to have a meaningful discussion about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we may potentially talk about some specific things of the game. So if you've not played it yet and having it be a completely fresh and pristine experience is important to you, then perhaps proceed with caution.
I will say that I had a couple of the big moments revealed to me before I got to them.
Yeah.
And it didn't make them less effective, I think.
Okay,
I still thought it was really cool.
Some people, I mean, I personally prefer to just have them completely.
Yeah.
But we'll do our best. But also, it's not going to be completely free of any.
Yeah.
Because that would be a boring chat.
Yeah.
Mario was imagining Luigi the whole time. Making soap was a metaphor. Anyway.
So, yeah, this has been the game. I can't remember the last time I was this excited for a game in advance of it coming out.
It was Breath of the Wild. It's been a fucking crazy year.
It's been a crazy year, yeah. Wow, Ben just, without saying anything, spun his laptop around and thus our view of him to sort of recline more on his bed, like Chase Lounge style.
Yes.
And we should say there's a certain tier of Patreon that is getting this video, so that's a good advertisement. You will have gotten to see what we just got to enjoy.
That shirt will be off by the end of this.
It's like talking about Mario. Time to get sexy.
No, I've just been sitting in a weird position for half an hour and my back was sore.
And I just realised there's
Here comes the shirt,
you.
boys.
He's actually doing it. He's taking it off. He's got a tattoo that says, "I love being a dick." I think it might
And
be a
that getting the
cover-up.
tattoo, that's a huge dick move as well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's massive. So yeah, I was very very excited for it. Had been kind of following all the coverage of it. Someone said to me just after I'd started playing it, they said, "Is it living up to your expectations?" And I realized how hard that was to answer because I had built this up so much that I think a part of me literally expected when I turned the console on to have the face of God appear and speak directly to me and
then you
give
can
me
pull
the
at different-
answers of life.
You can pull at different parts of God's face, stretch them out.
Yeah. Like, so I realized once I started playing it, I really had to reset myself because I built this up to be fucking everything. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And so, where to begin? Where do we start with it?
That's a good question.
Okay, so the first-
fucking like it.
Yeah, the first thing that stuck out to me when I started playing it was that visually it's incredible. For a Switch game, for any game really, the textures, the design of certainly the first bit, like where there's that kind of weird furry fuzzy texture to the ground, I was
The
like,
Cap
wow.
Kingdom.
Yeah. It was just like, wow, this is impressive. Like it was impressively good.
It's an interesting thing, though, where if you look at it, if you really, really technically look at it, it's kind of not, but it's kind of what Nintendo have always done really well of just working within their limitations and actually making stuff look a lot better than it is. Like bits of Breath of the Wild, it looks like it's running on something that's better than the PS4, but it's just very effective use of lighting and perspective and their textures and stuff where that's always been their strength. They don't always have the most powerful console on the market, but they're just good at, working with what they've got to make it look as good as it possibly can
The
be.
sort of shininess and the roundness to a lot of things looks really great. There's some the whole aesthetic and the variety in the different kingdoms that you get to see throughout the whole thing is really, really good. It runs at a really good, smooth speed. Drops a couple of times in like busy parts.
It drops a fair bit in New Donk City, I've found.
And
Yes.
in the Luncheon Kingdom at one point, and like there's a couple of bits where
Couple
it never
little bits.
really affects you.
Yeah.
In a similar way to Breath of the Wild, almost.
Yeah. So let's talk about how it feels amazing. This is like, there's been so many times where I've turned it on and I've just done nothing. Like it's just running around, jumping on shit, like doing all of Mario's little moves that are all back, possessing things and running around. Like it all feels, and like, what you were saying, I think going back to Breath of the Wild after this will feel just sluggish. Like the speed with which Mario just kind of like hoons around is so satisfying.
And you feel very in control of it all the time. And also there's just so, like, the fact that it feels so good to move around is encouraged by the amount of shit there is everywhere to go and do. That every single little thing you do or every bit you move, there's I'll be watching you.
Yeah.
Every single little part of it has a little moon. Some of them are really easy to get.
Yeah.
You just butt stomp the ground and it shows up. Some of them you've got to do a full-on puzzle. Some of them you've got to do this huge, really difficult platforming challenge.
Yeah, so that's...
It just, you like, after a while, because this partly might be because of 20 years of playing 3D Mario games, but it really feels like the controls are just so perfectly tuned to get you around them.
Yeah, I didn't really feel that way. I found Mario the hardest thing to control. Like, I was often possessing like Goombas or some of the stretchy guys because they had their momentum stopped quicker. I found Mario kind of difficult. Well, not difficult, but just like not my preferred way of controlling a character around a 3D world. So, and I felt that made some of the platforming areas, aka the whole game, kind of difficult. But some like trying to get down like really thin bits of cliff and stuff like that.
It's very much based on like the assumption that you have been playing these games for 20 years because it just feels like a lot of the design choices of how he moves are done in mind of you, having played these games for a long time. So little things like he gains momentum when he comes down a hill. All that kind of stuff is really satisfying. Like the way his speed changes and the way he reacts to it as well. Like he sticks his arms out like he's kind of trying to fly when he starts.
And that is quite new. That's
brand new.
Isn't in any of the other. I can't like not in 3D Worldy or any of them.
I don't think they've had that before. Yeah, and it's such a small little thing.
Well, and then it builds challenges into like, okay, you have to be going fast enough.
Yeah.
So like your long jump and the roll thing, which is new, you can roll about the place.
Yeah.
They can build your momentum much quicker than just running. So you kind of have to think about your speed in a way that hasn't been necessary before.
Yeah, I don't know if this is like an actual thing or not, but it feels like the sound effects of his feet running are faster than they have been before.
I think it's just going
So
faster.
it just gives you this sense that he really is going like a lot faster than he has in past games. So it's like it just feels so satisfying, and the little tufts of smoke that come out behind him just really give you this feeling of like, that you can clear this huge distance in a quick space of time. But like you were saying with the moons being hidden everywhere, like that's kind of an interesting change of design from something like Super Mario 64, where the stars in that were all based on collecting all the red coins, or like someone going, oh, I've lost a thing. Go and get this
missing.
And bring it to me. And there's sort of not so much of that. Like it's...
Or there's like a similar amount of the unique ones, but there's just so much more stuff that they kind of are less significant than they were.
So the big difference is, in past ones it was like find 8 red coins and you get a star. In this, it's you need a certain amount of currency that's specific to each world to buy a new costume, and then that costume will let you into a room that you can only get in if you're dressed like that, where you get a power moon. So it's little things like that where it's not just just find all the coins. It's like you find all the coins and then there's this like little bit of presentation that just gives it a bit more reason instead of just going and finding the coins.
There are
But then
a fair few that...
Oh, sorry, Knox. We might be about to say the same thing, but there are ones where it's just like hit a rabbit or, like jump on this timed thing and then climb up a staircase and then there's a power moon. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And they repeat throughout the game a little more often than I might have liked.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. There's like the birds flying around the levels, or the rabbits, or there's a bunch of others.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of like you'll see like the ground will be glowing, and if you ground pound it, there'll be one in there.
The bosses get redone a bunch after you've completed the main game, which I was really bothered by.
I know that's been a problem that they've had with these games since I think maybe 3D Land started doing it a bit, or New Super Mario Brothers. Like they did this thing where they reuse multiple bosses across the game, and it's kind of it is a bit of a drag.
Yeah.
But I also think that the way that that's done is kind of challenging enough that I didn't mind. Like the boss fights in this are great.
Sure.
The capturing
I found them a little too easy.
Yeah.
Just
this is my thing with the game is that the whole thing was too easy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the challenge is in the game.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes after you finish the main bit. So I'm on about like 560 moons now or something. So I've kind of gotten to the point where all of the things that you can do are there.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff towards the end that is hard.
Yeah,
In a
yeah.
similar way to 3D World I felt exactly the same way, where pretty simple, pretty easy, satisfying and fun still, but not particularly challenging for most of it. Especially since there's no real penalty to dying or anything
There's
like that.
not, no.
Yeah.
Until you get towards the end where there's some levels where it just goes, okay, there's no checkpoints, fuck you.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
loving that about the end of it, that like it's this really fucking joyous, such a happy, like positive, affirming game that right at the end goes, okay, fuck off now. Fuck
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You can't do this.
It's
fun.
It feels like it's kind of by design that it's not about it's not about having your ass kicked. It's just about the experience of like being in it and having fun and experiencing it. But so I definitely agree that it's paced really weird because for me, so I played a huge chunk of it on the flight to Shanghai that I took last week, and yeah, I breezed through a lot of it in basically the one sitting. And so we'd seen so much of this game before it came out that I, in my head, was expecting, I thought there's going to be like 4 dozen kingdoms or something. I was expecting there to be dozens and dozens of worlds that we hadn't seen. And so I was very quickly, you can proceed through the actual story bit of the game in probably like 6 to 8 hours. Like,
Yeah,
you
I
can
would've done
breeze
it
through it
about that.
really quickly. And so I was doing that because I just wanted to see stuff that I hadn't seen yet. Like, I was waiting for some kind of like the big, I was like, oh, okay, well, the next kingdom might be one that, I haven't seen in trailers or anything. And for the most part, there's not that much in there that we hadn't already seen in the lead up.
There's like 3 or 4 levels.
Which was a little disappointing to me, and that's totally down to how much I consumed stuff, and it's not really the fault of the game, it's more like the way that they chose to market it. But I getting near the end so quickly kind of freaked me out because I was like, fuck, this is a really short game.
Yeah.
And those games in the past would have bits where you would have to backtrack a lot to get enough, stars to progress, or you would get up to a bit that just stumped you and you just like couldn't kind of get through it. Whereas in each world, it's like what you need about 4, you do 5 things or at max, and then you're on to the next bit. And so I just felt like that was kind of weirdly paced, and there's so much to do afterwards, and
Well,
that's
that's the
true and all
thing.
that challenge stuff, but it's just so weird to have the credits, and then I kind of wish that they'd
The
that
main-
back end stuff had been a little bit more in the bulk of it.
I see
Yeah.
what you mean, but it's still there. It's just after the credits.
Sure, sure, and that's
It's
just
exactly the same thing as every other of these 3D Mario games.
Yeah.
With the ending about a quarter of the way through where it would have been.
Yeah, and I guess any of the gripes that I have are just down to my expectations, and also it's kind of a victim of itself where anything that I have a gripe with, I just have a gripe with because the stuff that I like so much.
Yeah.
Like me going, I don't feel like there's enough kingdoms in it. It's like, well, that's because the ones that are there I fucking really love, and the best bit of it is turning up into a new place and going, oh, what's this? And that kind of disappeared at a certain point. I would have loved just double of that, just new places where I
Yeah.
had no idea what was going on.
Well, I
Kinda
didn't really watch, like, I tried not to watch any of those, what is it, Nintendo, the Treehouse playthroughs.
Yeah.
Like, what I consciously was aware of in the game before playing it was the Sandy Kingdom, the Luncheon one I know now is called the Luncheon Kingdom, and New Donk City, basically.
Yeah.
And maybe the T-Rex was in a wooded area, so I was
Yeah.
like, maybe there's a forest. And so those were the ones that I was aware of before playing the game. And now that I've played it, and these aren't, maybe these are spoilers, I don't know, but the other kingdoms that are there are like Beach Kingdom, Snow
Yeah.
Kingdom, like they're the most boring and the most
That's-
expected ones.
That's the other thing, if I was going to be hypercritical, is that, I mean, they do each have their own little tweak to them. Like the Seaside Kingdom is all kind of like soda water themed, and the water makes a little fizz when you jump into it. And that's cool, but like the Luncheon Kingdom and stuff, it just would have been nice to just kind of break those tropes a little more. And
there are a couple that do. Like, there are a couple.
there are a couple that do, but there still is a beach level, there still is a snow level, and it just would have been, the Luncheon Kingdom to me should have been the tip of the iceberg of getting into a lot more weirder designed levels, and it just kind of stops there. Also, and this is just on a personal level, Knox, when we played the demo of it at Nintendo, they showed us Seaside Kingdom and Luncheon Kingdom, which are like the last two main kingdoms in the
towards the
world
very
before you
end,
get to
yeah.
Bowser, which so that was kind of a little... That's weird that they showed us things that were so late in the game. Like,
Well,
I
I
kind of
think-
get why they did it, but...
I think that maybe, like to your point, Knox, they're not viewing it as so much as like a linear thing. They're going like,
Yeah.
here are these places that you will continue to go through and backtrack through and visit again. It doesn't really matter if you're seeing the last or the second last level because it's not a linear game after
Yeah,
you
they're
played
gonna
it for
be-
like 5 hours.
Yeah.
I quite like that thing of just having you burn through this like main story thing in a different way to a Mario game, not how they normally go, and then revisiting all those places afterwards where they've all changed quite significantly.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's
Like
new
all the
stuff
characters
there.
from all the worlds are then back in them when you go back, and they have their own little challenges. Like I thought that was really nice.
And I really like all the new little characters. Like I think they've struck a good middle ground between being that nostalgic Nintendo thing, which they do a lot of in this game.
Yes.
And then still having some new stuff that is very different to the previous ones, where
It's-
there's new little characters that are, cute
Yeah.
little fun guys.
It's a pretty interesting thing. I was thinking about that yesterday about how to strike this chord between it feeling fresh and new, but also really hammering the nostalgia button at the same time is kind of quite a difficult thing to pull off. And so, all the 2D bits where there's bits where you go into a wall and then you're doing like a 2D 8-bit style. Those are all done amazingly. There's one in New Donk City, which is like might be my favorite moment I've played in a video game. Like, and so many moments in this game, I just had a huge smile on my face. Like, just fun, just pure video game.
And totally,
fun.
that's the thing. Like, there's little bits and pieces, but I think like the main philosophy of this game is that every single point of it is just really fun.
Yeah.
And it just keeps trying to be happy and like creative. There's so many new ideas from moment to moment.
Yeah.
And though stuff does repeat, there's always something new and different and weird and unpredictable that shows up.
And when you get into New Donk City and you can ride a scooter around, like I did
Yeah.
that for 15 minutes before I did.
Yeah.
It's like GTA but a cartoon. Like you can jump it off cars and get height, and there's again, this is a bit of a spoiler, but there's a challenge later on where there's a guy with a parking garage. Like he's got scooter parking, but he's got it up on all these really high buildings. So you then have to work out how to get enough momentum with the scooter to get it up onto roofs and then like drive it around to meet him.
Still haven't been able to figure it out with one of them.
I've done the first one. I can't get to the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just stuff like that where you go, okay, this is going to keep me busy for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the addition of
Because there's a lot in there. If you want to get everything, there's plenty in
It'll
there.
take ages,
Like, as much as the sort of main story, which is really kind of not a big deal.
Yeah,
Sure.
So that is my problem with this game. Like I'm probably not going to be revisiting it much now that I've finished the story. It's just, and it is a preference. I'm not saying it's a right or wrong thing, but I just wish that they would have paced it out a lot longer. Like Breath of the Wild, technically you can finish in half an hour, but really if you want to, go from village to village and do all the divine beasts, it's going to take ages. Like even if you do play it at a normal pace, it'll take ages. And I still haven't finished Breath of the Wild. But I've finished Super Mario Odyssey, and I've been on holiday playing it in handheld mode, and it's taken about 7 or 8 or 10 hours at the most.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I understand the design principle about it, but I'm with you. I wish that it had been just staggered a little more, and I get why they did it, and it's very Nintendo to just go, no, this is just how it is.
Yeah, I personally don't care about it at all because all the stuff that is still there is still good enough and interesting enough that it's enough to drag me back into it anyway.
The first big post-game thing that you do is it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Like it's such
Yeah.
a great
And
nod
there's-
to the past, and it's so satisfying.
And there's more stuff that shows up later on
Yeah.
that isn't in the same vein as that thing, but it's just like there's still heaps of really good stuff in there.
Yeah,
more,
and-
more than it makes obvious as well.
Being able to dress up Mario is great. Like all the different costumes that you get.
Totally,
there's so much
totally.
fun to be had. The minute that you unlock the one that you really like, and just what I mean, having that as a main thing, and they're all nods to other Nintendo games and like their past and stuff. And the slight spoiler: there's a challenge after the main game ends, where when you beat it, you unlock a king's costume. So now I'm running around with Mario dressed as this little fucking emperor with a big cape and a huge crown on his head.
It's
and
so
it's just
stupid.
it's like I'm gonna keep him dressed like this forever. I love this.
So much of the game has such a dumb sort of sense of humor to it.
Yeah,
It's really fun.
These moments where you travel in between worlds, and I do, the story it's incredibly daft, like story inverted commas. But I really, there's every review that you read kind of very snidely mentions, oh yeah, surprise, surprise, Bowser's kidnapped Peach again. But just the whole thing of him planning a wedding is like enough of a new little thing for me.
And-
I like all the. You're chasing him through the worlds, and in each world, he's there to get something for the wedding. I think that's nice.
And the game itself knows and is having fun
Yeah,
with it. Too.
totally.
It's not. And
I still just love Mario being mute. Like when you travel between worlds, it shows you which by the way, you can get little souvenirs and stickers for your little ship.
Yeah.
And it's sort of satisfying seeing that room build up. But when you're going between worlds and Cappy will kind of talk to you and like tell you about, he'll kind of inform you of moves that you have in the game. Mario just sits there just looking at him, just mute, in this way that suggests that he actually doesn't really know what's going on. Like, I like the idea that Mario is just this fucking moron, just part brain dead and actually doesn't really understand what he's doing.
he's just the world's greatest athlete.
He's just this god who's just like, he gets right and wrong, but he actually doesn't really understand anything else of what's happening around him.
Yeah, I don't know. None of the stuff about like the pace of it really bothered me because I'm very happy to just find my own fun with it, which isn't even a fair thing to say because they've put all the fun in it.
Yeah. But to be fair, I mean, it makes it sound like I like it a lot less than I do. That criticism is all just down to my expectation and how I consumed everything that they were putting out because I thought, well, they must have a lot hidden up their sleeve, and that's not the kind of game they were making. But I mean, look, I really hope this is like a Galaxy situation where we get this would lend itself so perfectly to DLC. Like that level select map, you could so easily slot in 4 extra kingdoms in there or something like that. I really hope that's something that's coming down the line because I would pay for that in a heartbeat.
Or just an Odyssey 2. Just
Yeah.
I think they should like Breath of the Wild. I feel the same way. Just do an equivalent of Majora's Mask with that. And just follow it up.
Yeah.
Because they did, to me, the perfect versions of each of these games with this. Like, Mario Odyssey is pretty much everything I want out of a Mario game.
Like, I do like that in place of, like, where you previously had in Mario 64, like, a lot of the challenges were, they're going around and, like, hunting for things. In this, you more have, in the interim, they've done a lot of these 3D World and 3D Land and Galaxy-style games. So instead of these little challenges where you're running around finding trinkets and bringing them back to people, you instead go down a pipe where you have a short platforming level.
Yeah.
And there's dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of them. And finding a new one of them is always so satisfying because you've got this quick little challenge. And they do, when you go back into the main game, some of them do get really hard. You do find ones that really require just an insane level of dexterity.
All of the difficulty of it happens after you finish that main bit.
Yeah.
But and it's good difficulty too. It's something where you want to keep doing. It's not annoying ever.
Yeah.
But it is a lot like the only thing you do really, other than the purple coins, is collect all these hundreds and hundreds of moons.
Yeah.
But it doesn't ever feel like a shitty kind of collectathon, old-fashioned platforming game, which is like the exact criticism that those games always used to get. Is like, oh, you're just moving around and collecting stuff. It's boring. And even though that's all you're doing in this, every single one of them has just enough of a hook to it that I didn't ever feel bored.
Yeah.
I've got to say, and the opening moments, in the opening moments of the game, one of the first things that you do is capture the T-Rex, which I thought was such a great opening and definitely not something that I thought I was like, wow, they are really putting their best foot forward here. Like, I thought that'd be something that you'd kind of like build up to.
Yeah.
But doing that and then you do a little 8-bit level all in the space of the first challenge. Like, they really throw everything at you in that first little bit.
And that capturing stuff's great. We haven't really talked about that, but you've got all of like Mario. Like, Mario is fun to move around, for me at least, on his own. And you spend most of your time as Mario too. Like 90% of the game is Mario. but each of the things you capture has its own little gimmick, and they only really get used for the specific things they're kind of intended for.
There's a
But each
couple
of them
that
is-
are pretty. There's a couple of enemies that are pretty common because you end up sort of using
They're
them a
common,
bit, but for the most
they're
part,
not very versatile. Like you're
No.
not going to go through the level as
No.
as a Hammer Brother or whatever.
Yeah.
But they each of them do the little thing that they do so well and feel so good to do that it's just like even more variety to what you're doing.
Yeah, they all feel different. They all have they slightly different handling. The kind of look and the sound design and stuff of them. Like the little wiggly guys in the Lost Kingdom. That you possess, where the little, I don't know how you describe it, but
They're like little caterpillars, and you can
They're-
extend them.
they're like accordions.
Nobi Boy.
Yeah, accordions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, we won't spoil this, but I think the finale was just so well done. And again, it's not about having a boss battle that, and I've said this on the show before, like I don't really want a final boss battle that kicks my ass and takes me 6 months to beat. Like I just, it being a big spectacle is enough for me.
And
like just it being a flashy reward for getting to the end of the game, which is totally what this was. Like,
And that's what all of this game is just rewards.
Yeah.
Just every second you're getting a little bit of Pavlovian bullshit thrown at you, you know? Like it's fun to watch Mario go ba 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 bow and just like look happy.
Yeah.
And it's just a constant pushing your dopamine button.
Yeah,
And then
totally.
it does have, if you want to get to it at the end, if you play Mario games the way I do, where like I want it to fuck me at the end.
Yeah.
There's that stuff in there too.
My one slight complaint, with the exception of one kingdom. There's one kingdom, the music in which I love,
Yeah.
and then
Is it the
and that-
Wooded?
the Wooded Kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're doing something a bit different in it,
Yeah.
and then I mean the rest of the music is good, but it's just doing the kind of stuff that it feels like they've done for sort of years
Yeah.
now. And the Wooded Kingdom music is like this kind of jazzy sort of, it's got a little bit of electric guitar. It just feels, it's so tonally different to stuff they've done in the past. And then everything is like snow music, jungle
And
music.
Big parts
Yeah.
of the level don't have music as well. Like
Yeah.
it's very area based.
I like that. I like the some worlds where, it takes a while before you... But the rest of it is, whilst good, is a little generic, and the Wooded Kingdom is like, I've never kind of heard this kind of music in a Mario game
works
before.
really well.
I wish there was just a bit more thinking outside the box with the
Sure.
themes, but you know,
I think the
again,
music is for the most part good though.
it is good. Yeah, it's good. It's and also like switching into 8-bit and then it being digitized chiptune stuff is all awesome. But yeah, a great experience. That was my only real regret, was that I was glad that I had it for this long flight, but also I kind of wish I had sort of sectioned it up a bit more and sort of taken my time with it a little more, because I felt like I breezed through it in 6 hours, and in handheld mode too, which it's a lot better on the TV.
There's definitely a lot more stuff in there though that it kind of tucks away that I reckon anyone who feels like that could get more out of that game than they make obvious. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and because I don't know, when I was playing it, it was like, I've been, walking all day. I'm sitting down in my room. I'm not doing anything for ages, and I just
And now
really.
I'm playing this game where this guy's walking around. Does it ever fucking end?
But I was like really zoning in on it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to play this kingdom, and I'm going to get every moon I can find. So I wasn't just getting the moons that you needed to progress. I was getting like double that, whatever is
Right.
available. So I was trying to like really tap out each kingdom before I moved on. And even then it felt really short. And yeah, I think my general opinion on the game is like incredibly creative in ways that I couldn't even predicted. Visually amazing. I like the music. I like the boss battles. There just wasn't enough of it, and I don't have the impetus, just inherently as someone who doesn't like 3D platformers, to go back in and keep playing it. It's just not there for me.
'Cause my personal preference would have been, and I know that there's 800 moons or something tucked away in it, which is heaps. But yeah, my personal preference would have been, because the actual number of kingdoms that there are isn't too wildly different to what we've seen on like Sunshine or 64.
Yeah.
So my preference would have been, slightly less power moons per kingdom, but then another few kingdoms. But I mean,
That's obviously a lot harder to do.
but again, that's just personal, and again, that's just me saying, as a complaint, in inverted commas, complaint. It's just, I like everything that's there so much
Yeah.
that I just want there. I kind of had the same thing with Breath of the Wild where I was going around finding the towers and I got very anxious about finding the last tower because I was like, I just never want this sense of discovery to end.
Yeah.
So,
like I want to be finding brand new areas in this
Weirdly,
forever.
I think the way that might be better to play it from that point of view is to just barrel through the main story as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And then is the time when you get to enjoy
It does, yeah, and
weirdly.
it does open up a lot more stuff. Once there's like half the moons in each world you can't even get until you finish the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And then there's a lot you don't even realize are there until
Yeah.
afterwards. Like, you wouldn't have burnt out the kingdoms as much as you probably think, Ben, I would say. Like, because I thought I'd done that as well.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of, there were double the amount I thought or something like that.
Yeah,
Every
right.
time I run around in there and I go, I've done fucking everything in here. I look at the list and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I've got a quarter of these things.
Yeah.
You know what I would love to see as a personal thing? I really hope that, because so this kind of, I mean, they've got Xenoblade is out pretty soon, but this kind of brings us to the end of this incredible year for Nintendo where pretty much every tentpole franchise that they have has come out on the Switch.
Yeah.
Mario Kart 8 was a re-release, but, still so. I mean, I would love to see like a Mario Kart Odyssey because like the Mario Kart games kind of always, I think, get developed in tandem with the Mario platformers. And so as such, they never really reflect what's just happened in the last Mario platformer game. I would love to see a Mario Kart that's just all set in these worlds. You can race as the fucking robot watering can guys.
All the little characters
All the
in
little
this are
characters
great.
are so great.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The little Mexican Day of the Dead dudes.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see like Jaxie. I fucking love the little. Have you ridden the little tiger guy in the Sand Kingdom?
No.
The little, like...
Oh, the stone guy. No, I didn't bother. No.
Yeah, again that just looks great. Him like it's just basically a way from you getting from A to
And
B,
he's got
but
some
he's
stuff. I reckon jump back in. I reckon, and like I think there's more for you there than you think.
Well,
Yeah, I agree.
I think the way that I play games is like I would have played this for a couple of weeks and played a lot of it. Like with previous games that we've reviewed, I've usually gone in on them for like 2 weeks and played them every night. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna go home and play Assassin's Creed Origins and Wolfenstein 2, and maybe I'll come back to this, but I won't come back to it in a way where it's like this is the game that I'm playing and I'm fully into. It feels
Yeah.
like
It's a real good one for playing half an hour of that. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
And I have had a lot of sessions where it's a great one for going, all right, someone's told me that there's this cool thing to do. I'll go and do that. And then you get sidetracked on the way. And then that leads you to a different part. And like, it is a great one for that. Like I was trying to do this kind of end challenge thing where there's no checkpoints. So you just have to make it all the way through on the one life. So I was going back into the worlds and buying the heart upgrade things. So it took me a few goes. So I would die, doing this challenge. And then I would go, okay, well, I've got to go back to one of the other kingdoms to buy this heart.
Right.
And while I'm there, I'll just fuck around and get a couple moons.
Yeah.
I'll get 4 or 5 moons. So I'd be there for half an hour doing that and then go, okay, time to get the heart and go back.
Yeah, yeah.
And that took me about 6 goes to do it. And just that was so satisfying. Was like,
Yeah.
well, I've got to go back and get the thing. Oh, I'll go to a different kingdom this time. Oh, I haven't really seen much of that one. Like, just getting stuck in that kind of loop is very
You
satisfying.
totally got to just like go out and get lost in it.
Yeah.
Bit of an adventure. You go out and have an adventure that you didn't plan, but it happens to you. Sort of like, is there a word for that? Like a drug binge? What would you
Yeah,
call
it's
it?
a Super Mario drug binge.
yeah.
But it's just moving around in it and looking at it and listening to it is so much fun for me that I'm
Yeah.
totally in for like just getting as much of it as I can.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see now what they do because the other big if rumor is to be believed, this game was basically ready to go at the start of the year, so it's just kind of been sitting there without much work having been done on it. So that you have to wonder then what the team has been doing since then, and yeah, I would hope that it's. I mean, it seems like this is the thing we should say. It's like it's been. This is kind of. I don't think this was that deliberate, but what's kind of really clever about it being a throwback to Mario 64 is that so many people own a Switch who haven't owned a Nintendo since maybe the 64. So, when you've got all these people coming back to it from that generation and this Mario game that comes out is kind of a direct follow-on from that game, Like that nostalgia for them is so powerful. Like that kind of tying in is kind of really clever. I don't think it's like super deliberately something that they set out to do to targeting those people, but yeah, it's gotten nothing but glowing reviews from what I've seen.
I think it's incredible. Like, as much as there's faults with it and like it repeats some stuff, like it probably is laid out in a really weird way.
Yeah.
It is
I think the motion controls are something worth touching on because
Oh yeah, definitely.
it's not good to play in handheld mode. And I played the first few hours with the Pro Controller, and that where you kind of like, for some moves you have to like hold one side of it and like flick it and stuff. It's like,
well, you like flick it horizontally sideways.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good, and it seems like there's a shit ton of moves that are really cool and interesting that you can only do really with the two separate Joy-Con.
Really, the only I got it. I played played a tiny little bit of it at home within the way that they recommend with the Joy-Con side by side.
Yep.
And was like, oh yeah, it's all right. And then played heaps of it in handheld. And yeah, there was one bit where I had to. I think really the only move that you kind of need to do is the chucking the hat in a circle around you.
There's that, and having the hat do a little bit of a homing move after
right.
you throw it is really useful, especially
but also like
habits and stuff.
Aren't there some of like the high jumps or the long jumps or using like throwing the cap and like jumping on it and go like I think some of the ones that are movement based?
No,
you don't need to use motion controls for any of that.
The circle thing is really the only thing where there's like a couple of challenges where there's like flowers that you have to hit in a certain time.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is by doing the circle. So I, on the plane, had to detach the Joy-Con, have the screen sitting on my lap, and then quickly do the... It's just dumb.
There's no reason for it, too, because the L and the R button both center the camera behind you, and the A button doesn't really get used.
Yeah.
For anything. It's just jump as well. So there's no reason it couldn't have been bound to
It's
buttons,
very dumb.
At least as an optional thing.
Here's another thing...
95% of the moves you can do without using it. And yeah, all of the movement-based stuff... I think this is right. All of the movement-based stuff you can do without using.
Are you sure? Because it seems like there's a lot of moves. Like they only really tell you about 4 moves, but there's more than is integrated into the storyline.
The only thing that you cannot do without motion control is the circle around you.
No, you can do that.
You can do that, yeah.
Spin the circle and then throw your cap. You spin
Oh,
the
right,
stick
okay,
in
I
the
didn't know
circle.
that.
Yeah.
What you can't do is throwing your hat in the air.
Right.
But,
Yeah, which
you never
yeah.
ever need to do that.
Right.
Because to hold your hat out to jump on it, you just hold Y down.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
Here's
it's got
another...
like a big like action guide thing where you can look up all the moves, which is a bad way of doing it.
Another weird thing is that you, later on in the game in the shops, you can just buy moons.
Yeah.
And there's no limit on them. So I just found this shop and I was like, oh, okay, this is like part of the challenge. It's like you just buy one from here. Okay, I'll buy this. Oh, he's got another one. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just buy all the ones he's got so then that's done. And it just sort of kept going and I was like, oh, this is, I think I bought like 10 or 20. And then I found out that they just are limitless.
That
Right.
10
So
or
I think
20
there's-
is so
there's-
many to buy before you figure that out.
I know. But you can get, there's like, I think there's 800 in the game
Yeah.
to earn but you can max it out to like 999 with just
probably.
going
Yeah,
and
right.
buying all of these. Which I get that that's in there for like kids or whatever to be able to, but I don't know. I think that's just kind of a weird thing that it's not capped in some way. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's kind of a strange thing to have in there when the whole thing of it is, the joy of it is exploring and doing as much as you can to put this thing in where it's like,
Maybe
but
it's-
you can just fucking do this
It's
if
a
you want.
statement about the fucking horror of capitalism and how these days we just, like with Uber Eats and with all of this sort of shit, we don't actually go out there and live in the world anymore.
Hey brother, I was just in China. I get it, comrade.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of the horror of capitalism, the other thing I really love is the outfits and all the stuff you can unlock.
It's
like
so
that's
good.
really
Yeah,
cool.
it's so
I
good.
really like that.
Buying the little souvenirs for your ship. Like
Yeah.
there's some that I just don't think look good, so I've just avoided getting them.
Yeah.
Those I've never given a shit about, the little souvenirs for some reason, but the costumes.
Yeah.
Costumes I was
all
just
so
frothing
good.
on, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, more DLC with more fucking weird stuff that you can dress him up as.
Yeah.
The more the merrier. That's been my favorite bit is just deciding and it's like I do, like you have him dressed in a certain outfit for the world that you're in, and then you move on to another one, and I all of a sudden I'm like a bit like, oh no, this looks wrong. I've got to get him out of the poncho. Quick,
Yeah.
get him into the construction outfit. Or just
if you move here, you've got to dress like us.
I had the exact same feeling actually. That bit, where you'll kind of like jump in the Odyssey and there's no time to change. I want that control.
yeah.
Because they have
the certain. Oh, sorry, Knox. Go on.
I was just going to say they have time in the ship.
Uh,
It wasn't important. He could have changed.
Yeah.
there is a certain costume that you only unlock in the kingdom that unlocks after the credits.
Yeah.
That is the best. I love it.
Let's just say it if you don't want to hear.
Because anyone who like this isn't going to sell anyone on the game. That is something that I didn't get spoiled and was a cool surprise.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of cool post-game stuff.
Yeah.
That is very nostalgic, I guess we'll say.
Yeah. And there's I mean, maybe in our Game of the Year enough time will have passed by then we can talk a bit more. Or maybe in the coming weeks we can talk a bit more about these last segments. But yeah, I think that basically does us for Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think virtually anyone would find something that they enjoy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably it's a really fucking good game.
Yeah, it was great to finally play it after a full year of seeing it announced in January and then seeing the full reveal of what it is in June at E3 and then us getting to go and play it and then the timing of it working out and just the weird thing, every big game that's come out on the Switch this year has coincided with me a day or two later taking a very long flight, just by sheer coincidence. So just this journey of following this game all year and to have it kind of pan out like that. Oh, and also, this is how much of a fucking nerd I am. I took my dock with me overseas and had it set up on my shitty hotel TV, which I had to pull a chair from the other side of the room in front of to sit there and play. So glad I did it to be able to sit there and use the Pro
Controller.
Controller.
I haven't played any of it in handheld mode yet, just because it looks fucking awesome on the TV.
It's good, and it is good because you can do. Little quick short bursts. You can go in and just get 3 moons in the space of 20 minutes.
That's probably
it is
what
good
I'll
for the short
transition to
bursts,
soon,
but
actually.
I'm kind of almost tempted to just start a new save file and just go through all of it on the big screen.
Yeah, I think the biggest positives or the biggest positive signs that I have for this game are that it made me enjoy playing a 3D platformer and it made me enjoy playing the Switch in handheld mode.
Right.
I've not found that to be an issue at all, and generally speaking, I'm really on board with it. I just kind of wish there was more, which is
Well,
again,
you've got your flight home and stuff, so sink some time into it
that's
in
the
the
thing
post game
that
stuff.
your complaint about it is something that the game solves. There is heaps more.
Yeah, cool.
It changes up in a way it doesn't feel like going back to old levels and going through the motions of getting stuff. It really does keep giving you really cool shit.
Yeah. All right, I reckon we'd better wrap that up here for this episode of Filthy Casuals.
Sure.
If that's okay with you, Hong Kong Phooey.
Yes, that's fine with
You
me.
fucking
me
karate dog.
Me in New Honk City or whatever it would be.
Okay, so next week I'm going to go out after this or maybe tomorrow morning and get Wolfenstein. And good timing of having knocked off a fair chunk of Odyssey, which now I feel like the slate is relatively clear to put some time into Wolfenstein.
I'm going to do Call of Duty and Wolfenstein and compare and contrast.
Great.
Guess which one I think is going to be better.
Yes, thanks.
I'm really looking forward to playing Assassin's Creed Origins. I still think that my prediction of me loving that more than Odyssey is a chance of happening, but excited to see.
I don't doubt
what
that
happens.
in the slightest.
I'm definitely going to play more of that as well.
Yeah, cool.
All right, but it just seemed very slow to get going.
Yeah. All right, guys. If you're in Sydney, December 16th at Cake Wines, we're doing a live episode of this and a Mario Kart tournament, so you can get tickets at that.
For that one, we will all be in the room at the same exact time. 'Cause let me tell you, doing this over Skype, I hate it.
Not ideal.
No.
It's so much work. Some podcasts I happen to know, do just recording over Skype all of the time.
Yeah.
How do they do it?
Yeah, you get used to it. This wasn't too bad. I didn't find this too bad.
I've been utterly confused and bewildered by the slight delay this entire time.
The last
And wearing
time we did
headphones
this,
and
I
shit.
was in Ben's position of being by myself,
Lying
and that's
down
what
like-
that's
Laying
worse.
down.
Like a Greek roustabout, like an ancient Greek. What do you call them?
Greek.
Sex god? Oh.
Sex god. That's the one I was looking for.
So yes, also we should say the Patreon. If you would like to support the show and chip in financially, you can do that, and it's very much appreciated to everyone who continues doing that. Especially this week, where one of the rewards is the Facebook group, which you get access to, and we're in, and a lot of listeners are in. And it was great this week having a lot of discussions in there about Odyssey as people were playing it. It's always good around the time a big game comes out to have a lot of people kind of chiming in and reading what people think. All of that stuff is at filthycasuals.com.au. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Thanks for Skyping in, Ben.
Hey, my pleasure.
And as we say at the end here of every episode of Filthy Casuals...
I'm being a Skype call.
I'm a Skype call.
This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates. I mean, if you want. It's up to you.